Hello, Bit Squad. Welcome back. You are about to watch episode 16 of my podcast, Beards and Bitcoins, with my co-host, Jay Chains. This one, we just talk about 2018, some of the biggest stories, and we look forward to 2019 for both our podcast and for the crypto space in general. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one.
Welcome back to your newest favorite podcast, Beards and Bitcoins, where BitBoy and J-Chains get together each week to talk about crypto and things happening in the community. They will bring you some special guests and giveaways, so make sure you're subscribed. For all show-related news, you can find the guys on various social media outlets. Everything is listed on the official show Twitter account, @BeardsBitcoins. Now, without further introduction, two dudes that have beards, like Bitcoins, and want to talk to you about both, BitBoy and J-Chains.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 16th episode of your favorite podcast, Beards and Bitcoins. I am your co-host, BitBoy, and there is your other co-host, Jay Chains. What is up?
What is up? What is up, BitBoy? How are you doing, my brother?
Oh, I'm good. Did you have a Merry Christmas?
I sure did, man. I hope you did too. I hope it's nice to see some family get together, have some good food, and have some good time and some cheer. Speaking of good time and cheer, thank you to our show sponsor, HODL Fuel. That is definitely a good thing to enjoy on a cold Christmas morning. It's a nice hot cup of HODL Fuel. So you can check them out, hodlfuel.com, or find them on Twitter @HODLFuel. Make sure that you, when you purchase, use promo code BeardsBitcoins. That'll save you 10%. That beard will save you 10%.
10%. And we got a pretty sweet giveaway coming up we're doing with HODL Fuel, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So typically, if you've listened to the show, you know that we give away a bag of HODL Fuel every week. But like BitBoy said, we're doing something big. This is the end of the year. We want to kind of thank everybody and get some new listeners. And so what we're going to do is we are going to give away 5,000 Tron. There's going to be 3 winners. So if you get the first place, that is 2,500 Tron. Second place will be 1,500 Tron. Third place, 1,000 Tron. And of course, we are also going to be giving away 2 bags of HODL Fuel coffee. So that is 5 prizes for 5 people. Now, really quick, I want to say one thing. If you are looking forward to winning either the 2,500 or the 1,500 Tron, one of the conditions of this contest is that you will have to review and rate us on iTunes. And if you didn't want to take advantage of one of those first 2 places, you can rate and review on one of our other channels like SoundCloud or the Google Play Store, or we're also on Spotify.
Yeah, brand new. Just on Spotify as of this podcast.
This will be our first inaugural debut on the Spotify.
That's right. It's January. It's time for an inauguration.
There you go. So we'll reiterate all the rules and contests and sweepstakes stuff in the post after we announce the show, and do that later this week. So be on the lookout, because it'll happen shortly after you're listening to this.
Yeah, that's right. And I lied. It's not January. It's still December. After Christmas, doesn't it feel like January already? I don't know.
Every day's felt like Saturday so far.
It has. That's right. Well, cool. Well, it is time for your favorite segment of the show, the Crypto Movement Twitter shout out, where we shout out people on Twitter who are doing big things. Brought to you by Crypto Movement. That's crypto-mvmt.com, or you can find them on Twitter and Instagram @Crypto Movement. And once again, it's MVMT. I think you're rocking your Crypto Movement shirt right now. Is that right?
I sure am. It's the Stranger Things Crypto Movement.
Yeah, I wanted to wear mine, but I grabbed the wrong black shirt, and you can see the blackness in your shirt. It's really much darker than mine if you guys are watching on YouTube. But anyways, guys, so who am I going to shout out? I'm going to shout out 2 of my friends, Jacob Canfield and Mark Moss. That is @ILoveCrypto, and that's crypto with a 0. That's Jacob Canfield, and then Mark Moss is @1. That's the number 1. Mark Moss. Those guys run Signal Profits, and a lot of people have kind of been down in them on Twitter the last couple of days, but those are 2 of the smartest guys I know in crypto, and they do have a Signals group. And I'm pretty much in general against paid groups because most of the people don't know what they're doing. But I know Mark and Jacob personally, and they definitely stand 100% behind everything that they do, and they're just nice guys. And you know what? To me, when there's a paid group, people always point and say like, oh, well, their group is so expensive. Well, if you have $200 in crypto, then you shouldn't be paying for a paid group, The reason why some of these paid groups are more expensive is because they're trying to attract quality investors, people that have money enough to pay to be in the paid group. And Signal's Profits has been phenomenal through the bear market compared to a lot of other ones, and they're not perfect, just like nobody else has been perfect. But I want to shout those two guys out because they're doing awesome things, and they just don't do stuff with their Signals trading group. They also do YouTube videos and education and TA training and tons of stuff. And so those are two guys who I want to shout out this week.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, how about you?
I think we got to, well, for me, I am not really going to shout on anyone in particular this week. It was in the headlines. I don't know if you heard this, but Litecoin, their logo is actually going to be debuted on the Octagon floor at UFC 232.
Wow.
I think at the end of this month. So just in like 3 days or something, they're doing a UFC in California. So Litecoin is sponsoring, I believe, one of the matches and everything. So we're going to see that logo on the Octagon. So that's great exposure. So really want to throw it out to, the Litecoin fam. I mean, the whole Litecoin fam. You got the East Coast Litecoin fam. They're doing all sorts of stuff for mass awareness and adoption. And so to all those people that have put in that hard work, and to the Litecoin team for getting that sponsorship deal happening, that puts things right out in the front and center and the main stage. And, man, that's gonna be big.
That's insane, honestly. I mean, and that really kind of, it's almost like a capstone to crypto this year. And as we kind of move towards talking about our topic today, which is basically just going to be 2019 in a review, where we have come personally and where crypto has come over the last year and where crypto is going to be going next year. And for me, the fact that, the beginning of the year, it was all about money. It was all about dollars. And now we're getting towards the end of the year and we've got Litecoin going to be on the Octagon. And you know what's funny, Jay Chains, is as I look back and reflect on my life many, many, many years ago, I've always listened to sports talk radio. That's the thing. I love sports. If you watch my channel and you watch me, I love sports. And I remember listening to people talking about UFC when it was not necessarily near the beginning, but when it was really starting to move up in popularity. And there were so many people that were haters. They're like, oh, that thing's never going to pop off. And now UFC is so much bigger than boxing. It's unreal. It has destroyed boxing to where people don't even really care about boxing anymore. And it's kind of similar. It just reminds me of the beginnings of UFC. Crypto does. It's just got like this community groundswell of support, grassroots movement, everybody talking about it. It just reminds me of kind of how the UFC started. It's really cool to see an upstart. And of course, Litecoin's been around for a few years. I think since 2012 maybe?
12, 13, somewhere
around there. To kind of see it now going with the UFC that used to be kind of in a similar place in terms of popularity. Nobody ever thought it would be able to knock off the big dogs in sports when it came to, wrestling and boxing and things like that. And it did it. So I don't know. I just think it's kind of a cool parallel. What do you think?
Absolutely, man. I think, what you just said, about boxing, and I think it became irrelevant at some point. I think the one thing that they did to try to bring it back was the McGregor and Floyd Mayweather fight. I mean, that's really the only thing that boxing did any of any notoriety over the last couple of years, at least that I could think of. Well, growing up, growing up, boxing was like the thing.
Who are the heavyweights? Do you even know?
No.
I mean, I can name a couple. Deontay Wilder. I think. God, what's up? There's a couple guys that if I'm really pressed, I could name, but I've never seen them fight. Because boxing's so irrelevant, and especially here in America, we don't have a big American heavyweight. The heavyweight's where it's at. People want to watch that. But anyway, so like I said, we kind of want to look back on 2019, and I thought it would be kind of cool to just talk about kind of where we both came from for this year. And for me, this year has been totally crazy in terms of what I thought was going to be my year and then what has become my year. I thought, I remember reflecting back in January, like I had some money and I was like, oh man, by this time next year, I'll be a millionaire. Like, I guess it was kind of silly to think that, at the time, because it was kind of closer to the end of the, bear market or bull market and things like that. But I thought I was going to make my stake in crypto in terms of having a ton of money. I didn't think it was necessarily going to be, I was going to be a presence and have a voice in crypto. I never saw this coming. I had a friend who I started talking to at the beginning of January who really encouraged me to do my own channel. And so that's where I kind of came up with the idea for my cartoon and things like that. And I started moving in that direction. And then some point he encouraged me to start doing news videos. And so I started doing news videos, and my channel, it's not the most popular channel on YouTube, but I would like to say I was nominated for 5 Crypto Influencer Awards, which totally forgot to talk about, including Influencer of the Year, which totally, blindsided me. Never saw that coming. Funniest video and things like that. Hopefully next year we'll get the podcast nominated. But
when do they announce winners?
it will be at the Chainwise Conference, February 15th and 16th in Cincinnati, Ohio, put on by my friend Jason Appleton, a.k.a. Crypto Crow. The Crow.
Crypto Crow.
Yeah, so I will be there for the award ceremony, hopefully be able to bring one home, maybe. I don't know. The thing is the people I'm nominated against are some heavy hitters. So, so it for me personally, even if I don't win, like I understand I don't have as big of a following as some of these other people, but just to be nominated in the same breath as people like Crypto's News and Crypto Daily and Crypto Zombie, who's become a friend of mine, and Tone Vase. Those are the guys I'm up against for Influencer of the Year. Like, my following can't really compete, but the fact that my peers think that I'm worthy to be nominated with those guys, like, it says a lot to me about what other people think about me. And I think that's not because I've got an intense knowledge of crypto more so than any of those other guys. I think it's because I'm nice. I think it's because I'm nice, and I try to be kind to everybody that I met in crypto. And, that takes me back to when I met you in Chicago. That's where we met and talked about the idea for the podcast and stuff like that. And obviously the podcast has become a huge thing for us personally to work on and to talk about. And we can't wait to see the next year explode. We've got big guests coming up. We've got big contests, a lot of good stuff. So that's kind of just a snapshot of my year, I guess. I could go into a lot more detail, but we don't have that much time. So what about you, Jay Chains? Tell me about your year.
My year was, it was one of learning. Man, it's an interesting way to put it. Growth, right? Obviously, there was a lot of personal growth. From some fundamental stuff like having some patience. Are
you a doctor?
No.
Dad joke.
No, that was pretty good. No, just being more patient, right? Kind of learning, teaching myself about market cycles, or at least, not being so. Because when I first got in, and it was like, mid-year 2017, things were kind of just starting to get cooking. And then later in the year, everything went crazy. And then we all know what happened. So, it was kind of a self-reflection year of, all right, the Lambo didn't happen.
What now?
Let's figure out. Yeah, now what? And so, I started working with the exchange and same thing with you, man. I never thought that I'd be doing videos, but started doing some news videos. And in doing this, it really kind of came from, working with the exchange. I was put on the team to review projects that we were going to start listing. And so I started digging really deep into all these crazy projects, some just awful and some just hidden gems. Right. And so, I spent a good part of every day just researching these projects, reading white papers, learning about the teams, trying to find information about scammy stuff and whatever. And so really just learning all about, how a project is set up and how a team is set up. And, nothing really too technical with dev stuff, but, just really learning. And so now that I've got this fundamental understanding of, how a project really should be running operationally so that they can make themselves a successful project. Now it's time for, as we kind of segue, into the next part of our discussion, and I'll save it for it, is, all right, now what's next? Where do I take that? Where do I take what I learned in 2018, apply it into 2019, move things forward? I mean, we all hope and pray that, the markets improve. Yeah. And so how can we take that knowledge that we've learned and apply it?
Let's talk about it. I didn't necessarily plan on talking about this specifically, but, what are your personal goals, professionally with crypto for 2019?
For me personally and professionally within this space, last year I went to a couple conferences. I went to, I think 2 or 3 little meetups here in Austin. I think that, for my goal of 2019 is to increase my presence in, I don't really know so much about conferences because it's more just an
Yeah.
excuse to go party and hang out with people. But with the meetups, and actually like learn stuff and you educate. And I'm not a teacher or an educator by any means, but I definitely can share my experience and some of the stuff that I've learned. But I really want to get more involved in the meetup space. I actually want to host a meetup. I think that would be really good. So I'd love to connect with some of the people that I've met along the way. Like Disruption Joe in Chicago. I talked with him and some of the other folks that have put these events together and kind of and just really learn it, like what is really necessary to put something together that would be successful. I'm not trying to make money off of any of this, but just really get people together, get people that are interested or people that want to learn more about crypto or blockchain and just help spread the awareness, because now all the projects have been funded. Obviously there's some new things that come up here and there, but everybody's been funded. So now it's time to come to market with your product. So let's just learn about all this stuff while we can until mass adoption happens.
Yeah.
What about you? For what's one of your goals for 2019?
One of my goals for 2019 is to make it where everybody in crypto knows about the Beards and Bitcoins podcast, right?
Boom.
The podcast is a big focus for me right now. I really enjoy doing this with you, and I think we talk about fun stuff, and I really look forward to what this is going to develop into. As far as for my channel and my social media accounts, like I really look to just continue to grow those. I'm hoping maybe I'm already an advisor for one project, which is Boosto. I'm looking forward to maybe being an advisor for some more projects in the future. I kind of want to get more involved on the actual career side of crypto, if you will, without actually having a career per se. I don't want to be a developer. I don't want to have my own crypto project, but I do want to be kind of more on the business side of it as well. So looking forward to that, and just trying to increase the awareness of crypto in general. It's like you said with the meetups, it's one of those things where when you take your eyes off of making money to put the focus on adoption and mainstream and telling people about crypto, like in a roundabout way, that's actually going to bring more money in the future than just if we had if we had a pump, you know what I mean? Because the more people that know about crypto, the better it is. So that's not why you're doing it, but that's kind of a byproduct of just getting the message of crypto out there. So, and I'm hoping this stuff I'm wearing my Crypto Cake shirt right now. I'm hoping Crypto Cake still works out and I can still do my show with them next year, which would be really exciting. So, I'm still waiting to kind of hear the status on that, if that's going to be 100% or not. But, so those are the things that I'm looking forward to, for next year. So let's shift it a little bit and let's talk about the year in review of crypto. It's going to be hard, I guess, to kind of sum up quickly, some of the biggest projects of the year or some of the biggest stories of the year. But for me, one thing I definitely wanted to talk about that I thought was one of the bigger stories of the year was definitely just Coinbase in general. Coinbase has been something that has really exploded. Even though the market is down, the amount of users on Coinbase are way up over the year. And if you kind of look at the evolution of the year of Coinbase, if you go back to, I believe it was January 4th, or the 6th, it was somewhere in between the 4th and the 8th for sure. That was the very, very, very peak of the bull market. And the tweet that started the bear market, and you can go back, you can look, you can trace this to the exact hour that the bear market really started. I kid you not, you can trace it back to the exact hour that this tweet was made. It was Brian Armstrong tweeting that Coinbase had not made any decisions on which coins would be added to Coinbase. That was at the very beginning of the year. And you may say, well, that doesn't sound like that was that crazy. Well, if you go back, the hysteria and the mania around XRP at the time, which, by the way, how to buy XRP, or not XRP, how to buy Ripple was actually a higher Google search this year than how to buy Bitcoin. So, which is very interesting. But if you go back to the XRP mania that was going on last year, everyone was just saying like, oh, in December it's going to get added to Coinbase. Oh, definitely in January it's going to get added to Coinbase. And so when Brian Armstrong tweeted that, basically what that meant was XRP is not going on Coinbase anytime soon, and we haven't even decided if it will ever go on yet. That's what that tweet meant, and everything started falling apart at that point. And so if you kind of follow along the year of Coinbase, there's been a lot of rumors surrounding Facebook buying Coinbase, Facebook and Coinbase working together. We've had some big news around Facebook this year, or the last couple weeks, having to do with them maybe having their own stable coin and things like that. But there's just been so much about Coinbase. One of my big moments of the year was when Coinbase came out in July and basically said that they were exploring putting on basic attention token, ZRX, Stellar, Cardano,
Ether Classic, right?
and Zcash. No, well, they ended up putting Ethereum Classic on in June before they made this announcement. But and so we've come to see that out of those five things, 3 of those are already on Coinbase. But one of my big moments was the fact that I called 4 of them. Like all year, I was saying basic attention token, ZRX, Cardano, and Stellar were going to end up on Coinbase, in the first round. And so far, that's proven to be just about true. We're still waiting to see if XLM and Cardano will actually get on. But that was a cool moment for me to get to see that tweet that I'd kind of been telling my followers for a while. And then, just in general, Coinbase has been, Coinbase and Binance really have been a huge focus of this entire year. So I thought that was a pretty interesting story just to follow along all year, how much Coinbase has played into the markets.
Absolutely. Kind of just piggybacking off what you just said there. With Coinbase, the Ripple army, I think that, they've brought a lot of saltiness to the whole space because they are just waiting for that moment to happen.
Yeah.
And, and who knows if it'll ever happen, but I know that there's just been a lot of talk and anticipation and all this stuff. But, what you said about Binance, I don't know if you saw the tweet from CZ the other day. He had asked everybody, should we bring back the coin of the month? And like, people were going crazy. I think within a few hours, they had like 4,000 likes and retweets and all that stuff. People were just going nuts. Like, yes, like, if this would be the next prophecy or whatever, like the next thing to actually get the movement going, like, all right, let's bring back, because like the last year, like, the word or the thread or the thought of getting listed on Binance, like that was the holy grail. Like, if you got Binance, like you were booming.
Yeah.
You were in. And so, if they bring that back and they start, publicizing, all right, we're going to bring that coin of the month. Like, what does the community say? Let's get everybody involved again. Get people excited.
Is this the way they'll finally end up listing Digibyte? I don't know. Do you know about that drama?
I know a little bit about it. I know about Digibyte. It was one of those things where I couldn't stay away from it. I got into it and then I got burned.
Well, if Digibyte ever gets on Coinbase, it'll do very well. I'm on Binance. I mean, if it doesn't ever get on Binance, it's going to struggle to break the top 30. But, Digibyte's founder and CZ got into it, and CZ basically said he won't put Digibyte on unless the founder apologizes to him about things he said. So, I don't know, just very interesting, all the drama. And I guess that's like kind of a different thread is, all the drama that goes behind the scenes with all these exchanges, with the listings and the fake volume, the bot trading, the exchange listing fees. Like, there's a whole world going on behind these exchanges that unfortunately we're just not, or maybe fortunately, we're not privy to. So that's definitely been something definitely been something to follow. John McAfee has talked about a bunch of those, a bunch of the, scammy exchanges and things like that. So, I definitely think the exchanges have been a huge, interesting topic this year, along with also DEXs, decentralized exchanges, which we haven't really seen materialize into what a lot of people have thought they would by this point. Will 2019 be the year of the decentralized exchange? Maybe. I don't know. I think it may be a little further off.
You think? What do you think? Well, Binance is supposed to come out Q1 of with theirs, right? With their true DEX.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be a beta, so I don't think it's going to be full on yet, but we'll see. I don't know how many coins it'll have on it. I don't know. The problem with decentralized exchanges is there always has to be someone there to fill your order, and when the volume with crypto is as low as it is right now in general, I think a lot of people are excited about it and don't really know what they are. They don't know, like, you have to, if you want to buy a low cap gem, if you want to buy something that's a low cap and you see a good price on it and you put your order in, that doesn't mean you're going to get it, even if you put it at the current price, just for the fact that
it might be a while.
It might be a while till it gets filled, especially if you want to put, a few $1,000s in or something. It definitely might take you a while to get that full. So that's been my experience with decentralized exchanges this year, and I haven't really used them. But a lot of people that are doing active trades, I know they do the limit orders, and they want to, catch something at the right number. Well, me personally, I just prefer to do the market orders. Like, I just want to get it what it's at. If I want to buy something, like, I want to buy it now. I like the price, so I just do the market order. And you cannot do that with a decentralized exchange.
That's true. I do a lot of, I've been doing a lot of shuffling in and out and getting myself into some better positions. And traditionally, I'm a limit order kind of guy. I like to try to find a good deal, and then maybe I'll go, a few percentage points below that and try to scoop something up on the cheap. I will market buy. But I prefer to limit buy. And it's to me, it's almost like an excitement thing, right? Like, all right, so I'll be screwing around on my exchange or whatever, and then put in a bunch of orders, go to bed, wake up the next morning, be like, all right, anything, Phil? And I get pissed if it doesn't. I get excited if I see the little update saying you've got some new crypto.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's how I do it. Well, I've actually been using Signals Profit Group that I was talking about earlier with Mark Moss and Jacob Canfield. And so I've actually been doing some trading like that. So I have an amount that I trade with, So I've gotten into it a little bit. But most of my investments are just that. They're investments. They're long-term holds and things like that. So, well, what story did you think was really big this year, Jay Chains?
There was a couple. I think, for me, I think, and it's not like a highlight, but my biggest story, I think, and takeaway of the year was kind of just the whole vibe and atmosphere of like what ICOs did, what they collected, what did they do with those funds, and who made it, and who exit scammed, who ran out of money, and who's coming to market with something, I think that's the most important thing of the whole year for me is, what are those companies that took in, and you feel bad for some of them, right? Like they might have like a really good team, a really good idea, and they collected 20, 30, whatever $1 million back, when prices were higher. And then all of a sudden that money dried up pretty quick, And so it's, if you went out and bought yourself a Lambo and a boat and a house and you were living lavish, then all of a sudden you got nothing left. I mean, it's tough to keep those lights on.
Well, and I think people confuse the word scam with mismanagement of money, which many people, personally and professionally, have mismanaged money before. That doesn't mean that you're a bad person. You just didn't take certain things into consideration when you spent certain money. Not everybody is good with money. That's why Dave Ramsey makes a killing, because so many people are bad with money. Doesn't mean they're a scam. But maybe they bit off a little more than they could chew. And I think we've seen that a lot. I don't know if you saw this story. This absolutely blew my mind. And I think it's going to have a terrible ending by the looks of it, which is Substratum. Are you familiar with Substratum at all?
Oh, yeah, I heard about this.
Yeah, so Substratum, I actually, one of our good friends, Christopher Crypto, is good buddies with one of the guys that was on the launch team for Substratum. Now, he's not a part of the Substratum team. He was part of the launch team. Now, we actually talked about this on our World CryptoCon episode with Christopher Crypto, and that, ICO Driver, who are the people that launched it, don't have anything to do with it anymore. It's launched. So it's just crazy to listen to how much money it was worth at one time. And I know a lot of those guys lost a ton of money, and not just the guys personally, but unfortunately the team has lost so much of their funds that they decided that they were going to start shorting Ethereum. They were going to be day trading Ethereum or margin trading and shorting it. And that's how they said, it's probably going to go down to $60. I think it was around $80 at this time. They said, we think it's going to go down to 60, so we're going to try to recoup some of this money. We're going to short it. Now, the gist I got from the video was they were going to day trade it, but a lot of people have said that know more about trading than I did, that they were saying they were going to short it. Well, the day they said that was like the bottom, and it went all the way up to 150. So they may have actually got liquidated on a lot of their funds. I'm not 100% sure about that. I can't see it. I haven't seen anybody say anything about it. But if you take what they said in their video that they were going to do, and then look at the numbers and look at the chart of when that was made and what's going on now, that's just an example. People are scrambling. If you raised, well, I know basically it right now is worth, it's down like 90 something percent, so if you, and so is most things. So if your, available capital through crypto is down 90% from what you raised, you were probably just planning on spending 10% on office supplies or something. You know what I mean? Now you got to make that work for your whole project. and it's going to be hard. I think this is, maybe Substratum may end up being one of the first casualties of the bear market in terms of a larger project that goes down. So we'll just have to see.
Yeah. Yeah, because we've seen it, a number of small projects go out, but nothing really notable, right? I think
Right.
that, it is unfortunate, but that sounds like it may be the first one to really have to pull the plug, and man, it's just tough, because everything was looking so good, and the promise of the market and all this stuff. I mean, the stock market, I think at that point was still rallying for 400 or 500 days, I think, or it
Yeah.
definitely went like 1,000 days that it was in a bull market for the stock market. So we thought that things would just keep going that way, and more people would buy in, and then all of a sudden, things changed. And
Yeah.
well,
Well, what can you do? Well, looking back on what I thought was one of the bigger stories of the year, there was so much anticipation. There was a certain announcement, which when I say announcement, you guys probably all think Justin Sun and Tron, but this was actually Verge. They had this big announcement, and it got pumped up and pumped up for weeks. They actually asked their community before this announcement to raise like millions of dollars more to put into this project, because this announcement was going to be so huge. It was going to change everything in crypto. And the announcement came out. And the funniest thing from the announcement was the announcement video. It actually was pretty funny. But the announcement was their partnership with Pornhub. Was that the biggest partnership of the year or what? So it was tough. But the announcement video was very funny. And to me, I think that just kind of summed up 2018 in a nutshell right there, which is there was so much hope and so much promise, and then all of a sudden it just came crashing down. And that's what we saw with the Verge announcement. We've seen it with many other partnership announcements the projects have gotten. The funny thing about the Pornhub partnership was, of course, everybody was like, well, who pays for porn? That was, what most people said. But other than that, the fact that later on, Pornhub actually worked with Tron, and I can't remember the other one. There's actually 2 or 3 more cryptos you can use on the site now, according to reports. I haven't seen it personally, but
was it Verge?
Well, Verge, Tron, and I think there's another one. I think it's Zcash, maybe I'm wrong on that. But Verge and Pornhub had a partnership, and I believe Verge actually paid Pornhub to become that partner. And then you had these other ones that came in behind it and got it for free. And it was like, what was the point of all that? And I just think that, the confusion, the disappointment, to me, that just kind of sums up the entire year when it comes to crypto.
Yeah, the announcement of the announcement. It was, and I think that's one thing where we're seeing a lot of struggle right now is that, companies and these projects really aren't announcing much because it's not going to do anything, right? Just keep working, keep your head down, keep focused, and just keep working. And then, once we see, the last week or so, we saw a nice little jump back up. But, I think that once we get into a better market condition, I think we're going to start seeing more regular announcements and more updates from these projects that we know that they're, like I'm involved in a couple projects and, invested in a couple projects. And I know that, the announcements, they don't leave the Telegram channel because there's no point, because it's not going to get excited. It's not going to do anything. So don't waste the marketing effort right now, because it'll all just be for a waste.
Well, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think next year is going to be a better year for marketing and big pushes and all that stuff. If, once we see some improvement, consistent improvement.
Well, I think the one thing that really surprised me about this year compared to last year was last year in the bull market, the market was news driven. The dips were news driven and the spikes were news driven. And we haven't seen that in the bear market. In the bear market, generally when there's bad news, it's like the ETF postponements and things like that. They were already baked into the price, so we wouldn't even see huge drops after those announcements. Now, when the backed delay announcement came in, there was a little drop, but for the most part, this year has not been news driven. And I know, looking back at last year, I'm going to mention him again for the third time. This will be the last time, I promise. But Jacob Canfield told me back in July, I guess, I went and had lunch with him, and he said that during the bull market, what he would do, and these are the kind of things with Signal Pro, and I'm not trying to push it. I don't have an affiliate for it right now or anything like that. I'm probably going to in the future, so I'm not trying to say this to pump him up. These are kind of the things that he does, which separates their group from other people, which is he says he would get up, he would stay up all night basically, and he would follow the markets along based on what time different countries or different time zones were waking up. So when like the majority of Europe was waking up, he would be up reading the headlines. So he knew that if there was a headline about a certain project, he knew that when the European time zone got up and read that headline, that that coin would pump. And so he was doing that all during the bull market, and that just proves how news driven the market was at that time. And now it's not at all. We get bad news, we get good news. It doesn't matter. And I think one thing people are waiting on is some kind of huge news that's going to change the game and get the market to go back up. I don't think so. If you look back at the last bull market when it started, there wasn't some kind of giant news story that pushed it forward. It just naturally hit a bottom and started moving up. So I don't know. It's definitely been very interesting to see that change.
Absolutely. It's funny that you say that, man. I probably was on a very much smaller scale than Jacob, but I was actually doing that same thing, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I kind of learned. I learned doing that trading the stock market, right? Because the stock market closes, and all right, so you got when the traders in Europe, when they get in, or when the traders in Asia start, so you have the three cycles. You've got Europe, America, and Asia, and so I was doing that same thing, and it's just like just when is it going to pop? All right, so they're getting up in like 2 hours. All right, let me put in a few limit orders and see what I can scoop. Yeah. And for a little bit that was great. I've actually forgotten all about doing that because, like you said,
so the market does.
There's no news.
That's what the market does. Well, there is news. It's just not. It's not moving the market. Now you're right. The individual projects have been withholding news for sure. But well, let's talk about. We only got a few minutes left. We got probably about 5 or 6 minutes left. So. Let's talk about what do we think our predictions are for 2019. So I think I'm going to give you my general summed up prediction for 2019, and then you give me yours, and then we'll talk about them. So my prediction for 2019 is that we will see a bottom, if we haven't already seen one, near quarter one. I do not think it will go further than that. I believe quarter two, we will start to move up. We may be already back around 5,000 or 6,000, which right now at the time feels kind of like the moon. 6,000 feels like the moon right now, which really shows the depressed state that the market is in. And I think as we get closer towards the end of the year, we will start again getting back to numbers that are comfortable for us, where we feel like things are moving forward. We'll get to 8,000 to 10,000. And I do think that 2020 is going to be the year of all years. It will be like nothing we've ever seen in crypto. 2019 is going to be your year to continue to accumulate, but yet it's really going to be the beginning of the year is going to be the time to accumulate, because right now, when you've seen the prices as low as we've seen them right now, what they've returned to, once it gets back up to 6,000, 8,000, you're going to feel like it's highway robbery to buy Tron for anything more than 2 pennies, So I think that's what we'll see. I think we will continue to see improvements in the tech. I think we'll continue to see more adoption and things going mainstream and people knowing about crypto. I think you'll see more ways for people to use blockchain technology without them even being aware of it, whether it's through actual apps or whether some games that are dApps become popular. I think we'll still see dApps continue to struggle to get a lot of users, but I think we will see improvements. I think we will see more people from the tech side start moving towards actually building dApps instead of continuing to build more projects and platforms, because I think we've kind of already seen that peak. I could be wrong, but that's what I see for the markets, and that's what I see for next year. I will say, I do believe a lot of people know this. I really love Tron. I've got a lot of reasons to love it. I think it's going to be big. I do think by the end of next year, Tron will be in the top 5. Bitcoin Cash, SV specifically, will be out of the top 10. I think that IOTA will probably drop down out of the top 20. I think probably your top 5 will stay the same. Tether will start moving back down in the 20s and things like that. So there's just a few projects that I see moving. I definitely see Basic Attention Token and Ontology making big leaps next year. So that's my general prediction for 2019. What about you?
I think that's a pretty good prediction, man. I'm kind of right along the same way, right? We talk to a lot of the same people, and I think our influences are pretty similar. I feel very, very similar about 2019. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be the bull run. That's it, like it'll be the start, right? It'll probably happen later in the year. I think if you're really trying to find something to do in crypto, do it in the next 4 to 5 months.
100%.
The sooner the better. Lock it in, get everything in, because once it starts, you won't be able to catch up. Much like we saw last year, and market cycles, they're always going to go bigger than the last time, because that's just the way that it works. Especially in a new asset like this, or in a new community like this, things are always going to get bigger every time you get a bigger push. So, 2020, yeah, I think hopefully, before quarter 2 of 2020 is when we're going to really see things kick off. So again, if you're, this is something we've talked about in a previous episode of the show. If, you're getting sick of what you're doing and you want to hop in and find something to do in the crypto space, do it now. Make that jump and just do it. Find something that you love. There's a market for everything in crypto right now. So, this year should be your year if it's the move that you're ready to make. Get yourself in good position. Don't bite off more than you can chew. Don't make the same mistakes a lot of people did last year, and take too much and put it in the market. Put in what you can afford to lose, and just be patient. Learn a new craft, learn a hobby, learn how to trade. I want to learn TA. That was another thing. We talked about that when we were on the CoinBoy show. I want to learn how to do some TA so that I can actually, be educated when I look at a chart versus, all right, this looks good.
I'm learning a little bit. It's coming with time, just by watching videos, and not necessarily watching TA videos, but watching videos where people mention TA and seeing the same kinds of signals and stuff that they've talked about. So, I do think here is the thing I will end with as far as predictions for next year. We've only got about a minute left here. We talk about all the time, are we early? Are we early? And if you look, there's a chart that shows an adoption chart of the innovators are at the beginning, and then are the early adopters, and then are the general adopters, and then the late adopters, and then the hard to adopt, which would be like your great-great-grandma. She still uses cash because she won't use a debit card, And if you look at that chart and where we are right now, I think 2019 is the last year that people will be able to say they were early in crypto. That's
fair enough. And on that, get in crypto.
Get in where you fit in. So, well, guys, that is it. That is it for the show tonight. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. Big shout out to our sponsors, HODL Fuel and Crypto Movement. Definitely love those guys for supporting the show. So I guess that's all we got. You got anything you want to say, Jay Chains?
Be on the lookout for the contest posting. Again, 5,000 Tron given away, and a couple bags of coffee. We'll drop some rules and regs, contest stuff. Other than that, Happy New Year, baby.
Beards and Bitcoins out. Talk to you guys later.
Well, that's it for this week. Thanks for listening to Beards and Bitcoins. If you like what you heard, show these guys some love and rate review on SoundCloud or iTunes. Also, remember you can always find the guys on social media. The show Twitter page is @BeardsBitcoins. You'll find direct links to BitBoy and JChains from there. Make sure you check for updates, announcements, and contests. Good luck to all who enter. See you next time.